Kyle Matthews stared at the message on his datapad for the third time. The words had not changed, but he kept hoping they would. Report to Ambassador Lillian Burke at the Galactic Peace Council headquarters. Assignment briefing at 0900 hours. That was all it said. 6 months after the war ended, and they still would not leave him alone. He closed his eyes and rubbed his face. The scars on his left cheek felt rough under his fingers. A reminder of the Battle of Kepler Station, where his unit had held off enemy forces for 3 days straight. The aliens had called humans monsters after that battle. They said humans did not know when to die, that they fought like creatures possessed. Kyle had lost half his squad in that fight, but they had saved thousands of civilians. That was what mattered. The shuttle ride to the council headquarters took 20 minutes. Kyle watched the city pass below him. New Terra was beautiful, built after the war as a symbol of the new peace. Tall buildings made of crystal and steel reached toward the sky. Ships from dozens of different species flew between the towers. It should have felt peaceful, but Kyle could not relax. Old habits died hard. Ambassador Burke was waiting for him in her office. She was a tall woman with gray hair pulled back in a tight bun. Her face was kind, but her eyes were sharp. She had been a general during the war before becoming a diplomat. Kyle respected that. "Matthews, thank you for coming," she said, gesturing to a chair. "Did I have a choice?" Kyle asked, but he sat down anyway. Burke smiled slightly. "Always direct. I appreciate that. I will get straight to the point. We need you for a protection detail." Kyle felt his jaw tighten. "With respect, Ambassador, I am a soldier, not a bodyguard." "I know what you are," Burke said calmly. "That is exactly why we need you. This is not a normal protection assignment." She touched a control on her desk, and a hologram appeared. It showed a small alien girl with pale blue skin and large, dark eyes. She looked fragile, delicate. Her species had long fingers and a slight frame. Kyle recognized the species immediately, Valorian. "Her name is Zira," Burke continued. "She is 8 years old. Her father is a high-ranking official who testified against war criminals from his own species. There have been death threats, multiple attempts on the family. The father asked for human protection specifically." "Why?" Kyle asked, though he thought he knew the answer. "Because, during the war, humans earned a reputation," Burke said. "When you protect something, you do not give up. You do not surrender." The Valorians watched what humans did at the evacuation of Centauri Prime. Your people held the line while their civilians escaped. Every single human soldier died that day, but every civilian lived. Kyle remembered that battle. He had been on a different front, but everyone knew the story. It had become legend. "The Valorians are a peaceful species," Burke went on. "They do not have warriors, not like we do. They need someone who will stand between this child and anyone who wants to hurt her. Someone who will not run." "There are other soldiers," Kyle said. "The family asked for you specifically," Burke replied. "They heard about Kepler Station, about how you held that position for 3 days." Kyle looked at the hologram again. The little girl looked scared even in the picture. Her eyes were too large, too afraid. Something in his chest tightened. "How long is the assignment?" he asked. "At least 6 months, until the trials are finished and the threats are dealt with." "I am not good with children," Kyle said. "You do not need to be good with children," Burke said. "You need to be good at keeping them alive. That is what you do best." Kyle was quiet for a long moment. He thought about his own sister, about how she had died in the bombing of Chicago. She had been 9 years old. He had been off-world, fighting. He had not been there to protect her. "When do I start?" he asked finally. Burke looked relieved. "Tomorrow. I will send you the details and the location." "Kyle, I know this is not what you want, but that little girl needs someone who will not let anything happen to her, someone who will stand against the universe itself if necessary. That is you." Kyle stood up. "I will do my job, Ambassador." "I know you will," Burke said. "Thank you." The next day, Kyle arrived at the diplomatic compound where Zira and her family lived. It was a secure building with high walls and guards at every entrance. The guards were from mixed species, part of the new integrated security force. They all straightened when they saw Kyle. Humans had that effect now. The war had made them famous, or infamous, depending on who was asked. A Valorian woman met him inside. She was elderly, her blue skin faded to almost white. She moved slowly, carefully. "I am Mira," she said in accented English. "I care for Zira." "You are the human soldier?" "Kyle Matthews," he said. Mira studied him carefully. "You are very tall. And those scars?" "Zira is already frightened. I hope you will be gentle. I am here to protect her, not scare her," Kyle said. "The two may not be different to a child," Mira said softly. She led him through the compound. The rooms were decorated in Valorian style, all soft colors and flowing shapes. Everything looked delicate, breakable. Kyle felt like a tank in a flower shop. They stopped outside a door. Mira knocked gently and said something in the Valorian language. A small, scared voice answered from inside. When the door opened, Kyle saw Zira for the first time in person. She was smaller than he expected, barely reaching his waist. Her large eyes stared up at him with pure terror. Her skin glowed faintly with bioluminescence, patterns of light flickering across her face and arms. Kyle did not know what the patterns meant, but he could guess. She was terrified. Zira took one look at him and ran to Mira, hiding behind the elderly Valorian. She was shaking. Mira spoke to her in their language, gentle and soothing. Zira peeked out at Kyle, then hid again. "This is Kyle," Mira said in English, clearly for his benefit. "He is here to keep you safe." Zira said something in Valorian, her voice high and frightened. "She says you look like the monsters from the war stories," Mira translated quietly. Kyle felt something twist in his stomach. He knelt down slowly, making himself smaller, less threatening. It did not help much. He was still twice Zira's size, even on his knees. "I know I look scary," Kyle said, keeping his voice as gentle as he could manage. "But I promise, I am not here to hurt you. I am here to make sure nobody else hurts you either." Zira stared at him. The light patterns on her skin flickered faster. She did not move from behind Mira. Kyle stood up slowly. He looked at Mira. "This is going to be harder than I thought." "Give her time," Mira said. "She has heard many stories about human warriors. To her, you are something from nightmares." Kyle nodded. He understood fear. He had seen it enough during the war, but he had never been the cause of it before. Not like this. Not with someone he was supposed to protect. "I will be in the security room," he said. "Let her know I am here if she needs me." As he walked away, he could feel Zira's eyes on his back. This assignment was going to test him in ways combat never had. In battle, the enemy was clear. Here, he had to protect someone who was afraid of him. He had faced down enemy armies, but a frightened child might be his hardest challenge yet. The first week was difficult. Kyle had fought in some of the worst battles of the war. But nothing had prepared him for a child who would not speak to him. Zira refused to be in the same room as him. When he entered, she left. When he tried to talk to her, she hid behind Mira and trembled. Kyle tried everything he could think of. He stayed far away from her, giving her space. He kept his voice quiet and calm. He even tried smiling, though his scarred face probably made that worse. Nothing worked. Zira saw him as a monster, and he did not know how to change that. He focused on his job instead. He checked every entrance to the compound twice a day. He studied the security systems and found 3 weak points that needed fixing. He ran background checks on every staff member who came near Zira. He memorized escape routes and safe rooms. If someone came for Zira, they would have to go through him first. But doing his job meant being close to her, and being close to her meant scaring her. It was a problem with no good answer. On the 8th day, Kyle was doing his evening rounds when he passed by the common room. Through the door, he could hear Mira talking to Zira in their language. Zira's voice sounded sad. Kyle should have kept walking, but something made him stop. He looked through the small window in the door. Zira was sitting at a table, drawing. She had papers and colored pencils spread out in front of her. Her small hands moved carefully across the paper, creating shapes and colors. For the first time since Kyle had met her, she did not look scared. She looked peaceful. Kyle watched for a moment, then continued his rounds. But that image stayed in his mind. A little girl who just wanted to draw. That night, Kyle sat in his room and thought. He had not drawn anything in years. During his childhood, before the military, he had loved art. His mother had encouraged it. But the war had taken that away, along with so many other things. His hands were made for weapons now, not pencils. Still, he found a piece of paper and a pen. His first attempts were terrible. His hands shook slightly. Muscle memory from too many battles. The lines came out wrong. But he kept trying. And slowly, something took shape. A dog. A golden retriever. Like the one his family had owned when he was young. It was not good art, but it was something. The next morning, Kyle waited until Zira was having breakfast with Mira. Then he went to the common room and left the drawing on the table where Zira liked to sit. He wrote a simple note below it in careful letters. This is what dogs from Earth look like. They are good friends. He left before anyone saw him. Later that day, Mira found him in the security room. She had a small smile on her face. Zira found your drawing, Mira said. I hope that was okay, Kyle said. She stared at it for a long time, Mira said. Then she took it to her room. She has never seen an Earth animal before. Kyle nodded. He did not know what else to say. The next day, when Kyle checked the common room, there was a drawing waiting for him. It showed a creature with long legs and a graceful neck. The colors were beautiful, shades of purple and blue that seemed to glow on the paper. Below it, in shaky English letters, was written, This is a Vala. They live on my homeworld. Kyle picked up the drawing carefully. It was beautiful. Zira had real talent. That became their way of talking. Kyle would leave a drawing, and Zira would leave one back. He drew earth animals and plants. She drew things from her world. Sometimes they would write simple messages. Kyle kept his words basic and kind. Zira's English improved with each note. Kyle never saw her leave the drawings. She never saw him pick them up. But slowly, day by day, she stopped running when he entered a room. She would still move to the other side, still keep distance, but she no longer looked terrified. She looked curious instead. 3 weeks into the assignment, things changed. It was late at night when the alarms went off. Kyle was awake immediately, weapon in hand. His combat instincts took over. He checked the security feeds and saw 3 figures in dark clothing trying to breach the south wall. They were good, professional, but they had made one mistake. They thought the security systems were all there was. Kyle moved through the compound like a shadow. He had spent 3 weeks learning every corner, every hiding spot. He knew this place better than his own mind. He reached the south wall before the intruders did. When they came over the wall, Kyle was waiting. The fight was brief and silent. Kyle had been trained by the best, and he had survived battles that would have killed most soldiers. 3 intruders in the dark were no match for him. He had them tied up and unconscious in under 2 minutes. The local security forces arrived 10 minutes later. By then, Kyle had already secured the perimeter and run a full check of the compound. No other threats. The intruders were mercenaries, hired to test the defenses. They would not say who hired them, but Kyle did not need them to. He knew. After the security forces took the intruders away, Kyle went to check on Zira. She needed to know she was safe. He knocked on her door quietly. Mira opened it. Her eyes were wide with concern. Is it over? She asked. It is over, Kyle said. She is safe. She heard the alarms, Mira said. She is frightened. Kyle looked past Mira and saw Zira huddled in the corner of her room, glowing patterns racing across her skin. She was staring at him with those large eyes. Can I come in? Kyle asked. Mira looked at Zira, who gave a small nod. Kyle entered slowly. He sat down on the floor, far from Zira. making himself as small and non-threatening as possible. His weapon was hidden, not wanting to scare her more. "There were bad people trying to get into the compound," Kyle said gently. "But they are gone now. The police took them away. Nobody got hurt." Zira stared at him. Then, in a small voice, she spoke in English for the first time directly to him. "Did you stop them?" "Yes," Kyle said. "That is my job. To keep you safe." "You were not scared?" she asked. "I was focused," Kyle said. "When I am protecting someone, I do not think about being scared. I only think about keeping them safe." Zira's glowing pattern slowed down a bit. "The stories say humans are monsters who love fighting." Kyle thought carefully about his answer. "Humans are good at fighting," he said. "But we do not love it. We fight to protect the people we care about. That is different." "Do you care about me?" Zira asked, her voice very quiet. Kyle looked at this small, scared child. He thought about his sister, about all the people he had failed to save during the war. "Yes," he said simply. "I do." Zira was quiet for a long moment. Then she stood up and walked slowly toward him. Kyle stayed very still. She stopped a few steps away and held out her hand. In it was one of his drawings. The one of the dog. "I kept this one," she said. "It made me feel less scared." Kyle felt something warm in his chest. "I am glad. Can you teach me what Earth is like?" Zira asked. "I can try," Kyle said. Zira smiled, just a little. It was the first time Kyle had seen her smile. "Okay, but you have to let me teach you about my world too." "Deal," Kyle said. After that night, things were different. Zira still kept some distance, and Kyle respected that. But she would talk to him now. She would ask him questions. She told him about Valorian customs, about how her people communicated through the glowing patterns on their skin as much as through words. Kyle learned that rapid flickering meant fear or anxiety. Slow, steady pulses meant calm. Bright patterns meant happiness. He started watching her patterns, learning to read her emotions even when she did not speak. She taught him words in her language. He taught her more English. They would spend evenings in the common room, Zira drawing, while Kyle checked security reports. Sometimes, she would show him her drawings and explain them. Sometimes he would tell her stories about Earth, carefully avoiding anything about the war. One evening, a thunderstorm rolled through. Zira became terrified. Mira explained that Valorians had very sensitive hearing, and thunder was painful to them. Zira curled up in a corner, her hands over her ears, patterns flickering wildly on her skin. Without thinking, Kyle went to her. He sat down next to her and spoke quietly. "It is just weather. It cannot hurt you. I am here." Zira looked at him with tears in her large eyes. Then, slowly, she reached out and took his hand. Kyle held her hand gently while the storm raged outside. He kept talking, his voice low and steady, telling her about summer rains on Earth. Zira's grip was tight, her small hand barely covering his palm. But she calmed down. The patterns on her skin slowed. When the storm passed, Zira looked up at him. "Thank you," she said softly. "Any time," Kyle said. Mira watched them with knowing eyes. Later, she told Kyle, "She trusts you now." For a Valorian child to hold hands with someone means they trust completely. Kyle nodded. The weight of that trust was heavier than any weapon he had ever carried. But somehow, it felt right. For the first time since the war ended, he felt like he had a real purpose again. 2 months into the assignment, Kyle had settled into a routine. Every morning he checked the compound security. Every afternoon he trained, keeping his skills sharp. Every evening he spent time with Zira, teaching her about Earth while she taught him about her world. It felt almost normal, almost peaceful. Then Ambassador Burke called with news that shattered that peace. Kyle sat in the secure communication room, watching Burke's serious face on the screen. Her expression told him everything before she spoke. "We have a problem," Burke said. Intelligence picked up chatter about a group called the Void Talons. They are a mercenary organization made up of species who lost badly in the war. They have put a bounty on Zira. How much? Kyle asked, though it did not really matter. Enough to attract professionals, Burke said. Enough to make this a real threat. They want to make an example of her. Show other witnesses what happens when you testify. Kyle felt cold anger settle in his gut. What is the plan? We need to move her, Burke said. The compound location is compromised. We have arranged transport to a secure facility on Station Harmony. It is neutral territory. Heavily guarded. You will escort her there. When? Kyle asked. Tomorrow morning. Pack light and fast. The transport leaves at dawn. After the call ended, Kyle sat in the dark room for a moment. He thought about Zira, about how she had just started to feel safe. Now, they would have to run. He found Mira and explained the situation. Her face went pale, her bioluminescent patterns flickering with worry. Zira will be frightened, Mira said. I know, Kyle said. But staying here is more dangerous. Help me pack her things. Only what we need. They told Zira together. As expected, she was scared. The patterns on her skin went wild. Rapid flickering that Kyle had learned meant panic. I do not want to go, Zira said, her voice small. This is my home. Kyle knelt down to her level. I know. But there are people who want to hurt you. We need to go somewhere safer. Will you come with me? Zira asked. Every step of the way, Kyle promised. I will not let anyone hurt you. Zira looked at Mira, then back at Kyle. Slowly, her patterns calmed a little. Okay. But you promise you will stay with me? I promise, Kyle said. That night, Kyle barely slept. He ran through plans and backup plans. He checked his weapons 3 times. He studied maps of the route to the spaceport. If the Void Talons knew about the bounty, they might already be moving. Dawn came too fast. Kyle had Zira and Mira ready before the sun rose. Zira wore a simple gray cloak with a hood that hid her distinctive blue skin and glowing patterns. Kyle wore civilian clothes but had his weapons hidden beneath a jacket. To anyone watching, they looked like a normal family traveling. The transport vehicle arrived exactly on time. The driver was human. A woman named Nicole Grant, who Kyle recognized from the war. She had been a pilot. One of the best. Matthews, Nicole said with a nod. Long time. Grant, Kyle said. Good to see you. Heard you were on babysitting duty, Nicole said. Never thought I would see the Reaper watching kids. Things change, Kyle said shortly. They loaded into the vehicle. It was armored but looked normal from the outside. Smart. They did not want to attract attention. The ride to the spaceport should have taken 30 minutes. They made it 20 minutes before everything went wrong. The explosion came from the left side. The vehicle rocked violently but held together. The armor had done its job. Kyle's combat instincts took over immediately. Stay down, he shouted to Zira and Mira. Through the window, Kyle saw armed figures moving in. They wore mixed armor from different species. The Void Talons. At least 8 of them, maybe more. Nicole was already moving, pushing the vehicle forward through the smoke. But another explosion blocked the road ahead. They were boxed in. Back door now, Nicole shouted. Kyle grabbed Zira and pulled her close, shielding her body with his own. Mira, stay behind me. Do exactly what I say. Weapons fire hit the vehicle. The armor held, but Kyle knew it would not last long. He checked his pistol and his knife. Not enough firepower for a straight fight against 8 enemies. He needed to be smart. The back door blew open. Kyle was ready. He fired twice, dropping the first attacker before they could get a shot off. He pushed Zira and Mira out behind a concrete barrier, then followed, laying down covering fire. Nicole was out a second later, weapon in hand. This is bad, Matthews. I noticed, Kyle said. He looked at Zira. She was terrified. Patterns flickering so fast they almost looked solid. Zira, listen to me. Stay low. Stay quiet. I will not let them get you. An attacker came around the barrier. Kyle was faster. One shot, center mass. The attacker went down. There is an access tunnel 50 meters east, Nicole said, checking her datapad. Old maintenance system. If we can reach it, we can lose them in the underground. Then we move, Kyle said. Nicole, take point. I will cover the rear. They ran. Kyle kept himself between Zira and the enemy. Always. Weapons fire cracked around them. Kyle felt a round graze his shoulder. A hot line of pain. He did not slow down. A mercenary stepped out in front of them. Nicole shot him. Another came from the side. Kyle dropped him with 2 quick shots. Zira was crying now. But she kept running. Mira was struggling. Her old body not built for this. Kyle scooped Zira up with one arm, still firing with the other hand. The access tunnel was ahead. They almost made it. 10 meters from the tunnel entrance, Kyle felt an impact hit his back. His armor beneath his jacket stopped the round. But the force drove him to one knee. He kept his body between Zira and the shooter. Nicole turned and fired, taking down the attacker. Kyle, get up. Kyle forced himself to stand. Pain radiated from his back, but he could still move. That was all that mattered. He carried Zira into the tunnel. Mira right behind them. The tunnel was dark and narrow. Nicole sealed the door behind them with an emergency lock. It would not hold long, but it gave them time. You are hurt, Zira said, looking at the blood on Kyle's shoulder. Just a scratch. Kyle lied. His shoulder burned, and his back felt like someone had hit him with a hammer. But Zira did not need to know that. They moved through the tunnels. Nicole led the way using her datapad for navigation. Kyle brought up the rear, watching for pursuit. His training took over, pushing past the pain. After 20 minutes, they emerged in a lower section of the spaceport. Nicole contacted a secure line and called for help. Ambassador Burke responded immediately, sending a security team to their location. While they waited, Kyle checked on Zira. She was shaking, her whole body trembling. The patterns on her skin were dim and flickering weakly. Mira held her, speaking softly in Valorian. Kyle sat down beside them, finally letting himself feel the pain. His shoulder wound was not serious, just a graze. But his back was going to hurt for days. Zira looked at him with those large eyes. You got hurt because of me. I got hurt doing my job, Kyle said firmly. Protecting you is my job, and I will do it no matter what. That is what humans do. We protect the people we care about, even if it hurts. But humans can die. Zira said quietly. Everyone can die, Kyle said. But I am not planning on it. I made you a promise, remember? I will stay with you. A single tear ran down Zira's face. She reached out and touched the wound on Kyle's shoulder gently. Her touch made the bioluminescent patterns on her hand glow brighter. Kyle felt warmth spread from where she touched him. The pain eased slightly. What did you just do? Kyle asked. Mira looked surprised. She shared her light with you. It is something Valorians only do for family. It helps with pain. Zira looked up at Kyle. You are like family now. You keep saving me. Kyle felt something break open in his chest. This small, scared child considered him family. After everything he had done in the war, after all the people he had failed to save, this one small girl trusted him completely. You are like family to me too, Kyle said quietly. The security team arrived and escorted them to a secure ship. Ambassador Burke was on board, looking worried. The compound was attacked right after you left, she said. They knew the plan. We have a leak somewhere. Kyle's jaw tightened. Where are we going now? Station Harmony, Burke said. But we are taking a different route. And when we get there, you are going to keep a low profile. The Void Talons are serious about this bounty. Kyle looked at Zira, who was huddled with Mira, still shaking. How long until we reach the station? 6 hours, Burke said. Then we have 6 hours to rest, Kyle said. After that, We need a better plan. Running is not working. Burke looked at him seriously. What are you suggesting? I am suggesting that maybe it is time to stop running, Kyle said, and start making our stand. I am suggesting. Nicole, who had been listening, smiled grimly. Now you sound like the Matthews I remember from the war. You have a plan? Working on it, Kyle said, looking out at the stars passing by. The Void Talons wanted to make an example of Zira. Maybe it was time to make an example of them instead. Show them why humans had earned their reputation during the war. Show them what happened when you threatened someone a human had sworn to protect. Station Harmony was massive. It hung in space like a small city, home to thousands of beings from hundreds of species. It was supposed to be neutral ground, a place where old enemies from the war could meet in peace. Kyle did not trust it. Neutral just meant everyone had enemies here. They docked in a private bay that Ambassador Burke had arranged. Kyle carried his gear with one hand and kept Zira close with the other. She had been quiet since the attack. Her bioluminescent patterns dim and subdued. Mira stayed close to both of them, her old eyes constantly watching for threats. Burke led them through maintenance corridors to avoid the main areas of the station. I have secured a section in the lower levels, she explained. It is not fancy, but it is defensible. 3 exits, good sight lines, and away from high traffic areas. How many people know we are here? Kyle asked. As few as possible, Burke said. But we have to assume the Void Talons will find out eventually. This station is too big to keep secrets for long. The secured section was a cluster of small rooms connected to a central living area. Kyle immediately started analyzing the space with a tactical eye. Good defensive position. Limited approaches, but if they got trapped here, there would be no easy escape. Nicole was already checking the equipment that had been left for them. We have basic weapons. Some armor, communication gear. Not much, but enough. Kyle nodded. We need to contact any other humans on the station. If this turns into a fight, I want people I can trust. I know a few, Nicole said. Former military, now working as security or transport. They will help if we ask. Do it, Kyle said. But be careful. We do not know who the leak is. Over the next few hours, Kyle worked on turning their section into a fortress. He set up sensors at the approaches. He identified the best positions for defense. He memorized every corridor and access point. If the Void Talons came, they would be ready. Zira watched him work with wide eyes. You think they will find us? She said. It was not a question. Yes, Kyle said honestly. But when they do, we will be ready. I am scared, Zira admitted. Kyle stopped what he was doing and looked at her. Being scared is okay. Fear keeps you alert. But you do not have to let fear control you. How do you stop being scared? She asked. You do not, Kyle said. You just do what needs to be done anyway. That is what courage is. Not the absence of fear, but acting despite it. Zira thought about that. Then she said something that surprised him. Can you teach me to be brave like humans? Kyle smiled slightly. You are already brave. You survived an attack this morning. You kept running even when you were terrified. That is courage, Zira. Her patterns flickered with something Kyle had learned to recognize as pride mixed with uncertainty. I ran because you told me to, and you trusted me enough to do it, Kyle said. That takes courage too. That evening, 3 other humans arrived. Nicole had reached out to her old contacts, and they had responded. Kyle knew 2 of them from the war. Marcus Webb had been a pilot, like Nicole. He was tall and lean, with quick reflexes and a sharp mind. During the war, he had flown rescue missions into impossible situations. Lisa Crawford was an engineer, broad-shouldered and practical. She could build or fix almost anything. Kyle remembered her jury-rigging a broken cannon to fire one last time at the Battle of Forge Station. The 3rd human Kyle did not know. Danny Price was younger. maybe 25. He had been a medic in the final year of the war. He carried a medical kit everywhere and had kind eyes. So, Matthews, Marcus said after Nicole explained the situation. You are asking us to risk our lives to protect a Valorian kid? Yes, Kyle said simply. Marcus grinned. Good. About time something interesting happened on this station. I am in. We all are, Lisa said. The others nodded. Kyle felt grateful. During the war, humans had learned to rely on each other. That bond had not broken with peace. Thank you. All of you. Over the next 2 days, they prepared. Lisa reinforced the doors and set up additional sensors. Marcus and Nicole planned escape routes and identified potential safe houses on the station. Danny organized medical supplies. Kyle drilled everyone on defensive positions and fallback points. Zira watched it all. She was fascinated by how the humans worked together, how they planned and prepared without panic. One afternoon, she approached Kyle while he was checking weapons. Kyle? She said quietly. Yes? Can I ask you something? Always, Kyle said. During the war, Zira said slowly. When you fought, were you always this calm? Kyle considered the question carefully. In combat, you cannot afford panic. You focus on the mission, on keeping your squad alive. Fear comes later, when it is over. Is that how you protect me? Zira asked. By not being afraid? No, Kyle said. I protect you because I am afraid. Afraid of what would happen if I failed. That fear makes me more careful, more determined. Zira's patterns pulsed with confusion. I do not understand. Kyle set down the weapon he was checking and turned to face her fully. Zira, you asked me to teach you courage. So let me tell you something about humans. We are not fearless. We are afraid of losing the people we care about. We are afraid of failing them. But that fear is what makes us fight so hard. We choose to face danger because the people we love are worth any risk. So humans fight because they are afraid? Zira asked. We fight because we care, Kyle corrected. And we are afraid of losing what we care about. Does that make sense? Zira was quiet for a long moment, her patterns shifting through complex sequences. Kyle was still learning to read. Finally, she said, I think I understand now. You are afraid for me, so you are ready to fight for me. Exactly, Kyle said. Then I will try to be brave like that, Zira said. I will be afraid, but I will not let fear stop me from doing what is right. Kyle felt pride swell in his chest. That is all anyone can do. The attack came on the third day. Kyle was in the central room with Zira when the alarms went off. His combat instincts kicked in immediately. Everyone to positions! He shouted. Marcus and Nicole grabbed weapons and moved to the main entrance. Lisa took position at the secondary entrance. Danny stayed with Mira, ready to provide medical support. Kyle pulled Zira into the most secure room, a reinforced storage area with only one entrance. Stay here. Do not come out unless I come get you. Kyle, please be careful, Zira said, her patterns flickering with fear. I will, Kyle promised. Then he moved to his defensive position near the main entrance. The security feed showed at least 15 attackers moving through the corridors toward their position. They were heavily armed and moved with military precision. The Void Talons had sent professionals. Here they come, Marcus said calmly. The first wave hit the main entrance hard. The reinforced door held, but barely. Lisa triggered the defensive measures she had set up, sealed doors and emergency barriers that slowed the attackers down. They are trying to flank us, Nicole reported from her position. 3 coming through the maintenance shaft. I have them, Lisa said. She activated an improvised trap, and Kyle heard the sound of the shaft collapsing. Screams echoed through the metal walls. The main door finally gave way. Attackers poured through. Kyle and Marcus were ready. They fought with the precision of veterans, every shot calculated, every movement efficient. No wasted motion, no panic, but there were too many. For every attacker they dropped, 2 more came through. "Fall back to position 2, Kyle ordered. They retreated in stages, each person covering the others. It was a dance they had learned during the war. Perfected in dozens of desperate fights, they gave ground slowly, making the Void Talons pay for every meter. Kyle took a hit to his armor, the impact spinning him around. He rolled with it and came up firing. The attacker went down. "Kyle, they are breaking through the secondary entrance," Lisa shouted. Kyle's mind raced. If they lost the secondary entrance, they would be surrounded. He made a decision. "Marcus, Nicole, hold the main entrance. Lisa, Danny, hold secondary. I am going to end this." "What are you planning?" Marcus asked. "Something stupid," Kyle said. Then he moved. He went straight at the attackers coming through the secondary entrance, weapon firing. They were not expecting a frontal assault. Kyle was. He used their surprise, moving through them like a force of nature. Old training took over, muscle memory from countless battles. He fought his way to their leader, a large reptilian alien with heavy armor and multiple weapons. This had to be someone important in the Void Talons. "You want the girl?" Kyle said, breathing hard. "You have to go through me first." The alien leader laughed, a hissing sound. "Humans, always so confident. You are just one soldier." "One is enough," Kyle said. They fought. The alien was strong and well-trained. But Kyle had something the alien did not. He had a reason to win. Every time he thought about Zira hiding in that room, terrified and alone, he fought harder. The fight seemed to last forever, but was probably only minutes. Kyle took hits, felt pain bloom across his body. But he did not stop. Could not stop. Finally, he found an opening. One clean shot. The alien leader went down. Without their leader, the other attackers hesitated. That moment of hesitation was all Kyle's team needed. Marcus and Nicole pushed forward. Lisa flanked them. Within minutes, the remaining Void Talons were retreating. Kyle leaned against the wall, breathing hard. Blood ran down his face from a cut above his eye. His body was a map of bruises and impacts. But they had won. "Is everyone okay?" he asked. "We are good," Marcus said. "Few scratches, nothing serious." Kyle pushed himself away from the wall and went to check on Zira. He found her exactly where he had left her, with Mira holding her close. Zira's patterns were flickering wildly. When she saw Kyle, covered in blood and clearly hurt, she cried out, "You are hurt." "I am okay," Kyle said. "It is over. You are safe." Zira ran to him and wrapped her small arms around him. Kyle winced but did not pull away. He held her gently while she cried. "I was so scared," she said. "I know," Kyle said. "But you were brave. You stayed where I told you. That helped us protect you." "You almost died," Zira said. "But I did not," Kyle said. "And I will not. I promised. Remember?" As Kyle held Zira, he heard something unexpected. Footsteps in the corridor. Not attackers. Other species. Residents of the station who had heard the fighting. They stood at the edges of the room, watching. Among them were Valorians, their patterns pulsing with recognition and respect. Others were there too. Dozens of different species, all watching the humans who had stood against impossible odds to protect one small child. One of the Valorians, an elder with pure white skin, stepped forward. "You fought for our child," he said in accented English. "You bled for her. She is under my protection," Kyle said simply. "No," the elder said. "She is under our protection now too. All of us. What you have shown us today is that the stories are true. Humans do not abandon those they protect. We will stand with you." More voices joined in, from different species. Offers of help, of sanctuary, of protection. What had started as Kyle fighting to save one child had become something bigger, a symbol of what the peace could be. The medical bay was quiet, except for the soft hum of equipment. Danny worked on Kyle's injuries while the others stood guard outside. Kyle had taken more damage than he wanted to admit. 3 cracked ribs, multiple bruises, and a deep cut that required stitches. Nothing life-threatening, but painful. Zira sat nearby, watching with worried eyes. Her bioluminescent patterns pulsed slowly. What Kyle had learned meant deep concern. She had not left his side since the fight ended. "You should rest," Kyle told her. "I want to stay with you," Zira said quietly. Kyle did not argue. Truth was, he wanted her nearby too. After coming so close to failing, he needed to see that she was safe. Danny finished bandaging the worst cuts and stepped back. "You will be sore for a few days, but you will heal. Try not to get into any more fights." "I will do my best," Kyle said with a slight smile. Ambassador Burke arrived an hour later, her face grave. She dismissed the guards so they could speak privately. Only Mira and Zira remained. "The Void Talons are regrouping," Burke said without preamble. "Intelligence says their commander, a Krell, is coming personally. He is angry about the losses here. He wants to finish this himself." "Let him come," Kyle said coldly. "Kyle, you are in no condition to fight," Burke said. "You need time to heal." "I will heal later," Kyle said. "How long do we have?" "A day, maybe 2, Burke said. "But there is something else. The stand you made here has gotten attention. The story is spreading through the station. A human soldier protecting an alien child, refusing to give up despite impossible odds. Other species are offering to help. We already have volunteers standing guard," Kyle said. "I saw them. More than that," Burke said. "Some of the other species want to form an integrated defense force. They want humans to lead it. They say if humans can fight this hard for a child who is not even their species, then humans can be trusted to protect everyone." Kyle was quiet, processing that. "What are you asking me? When this is over, when the trials are finished and Zira is safe, I want you to consider training that defense force," Burke said. "Teach other species what humans learned during the war. How to stand together. How to protect each other. That is a big job," Kyle said. "You are the right person for it," Burke said. "Think about it." After Burke left, Kyle sat in silence. Zira moved closer to him. "Do you want to do it?" she asked. "Train the defense force?" "I do not know," Kyle admitted. "It would mean staying in space, being away from Earth." "Would it mean leaving me?" Zira asked, her voice very small. Kyle looked at her. In just a few months, this small alien child had become important to him in ways he had not expected. She reminded him why he had fought in the war. Not for glory or victory, but to protect innocent lives. "No," Kyle said firmly. "Even if I take the job, I am not leaving until your family is safe. I made a promise." "I made a promise." Zira's patterns brightened slightly. "Good. I do not want you to go." The next day, Kyle was back on his feet despite the pain. He gathered his team and the new volunteers together. There were humans, Valorians, and a handful of other species who wanted to help. It was a strange mix, but Kyle had seen stranger things work during the war. "Listen up," Kyle said, his voice carrying command authority. "Krell is coming. He is experienced and dangerous. But we have advantages. We know this ground. We have prepared, and most importantly, we have a reason to fight." He gestured to Zira, who stood with Mira. "That little girl is innocent. She has done nothing wrong except be born to a father who stood up for justice. The Void Talons want to hurt her to make a point. We are not going to let that happen." Marcus stepped forward. "What is the plan? Matthews?" Kyle pulled up a holographic map of their section. "Krell will come with a larger force this time. We cannot hold this position indefinitely. So we are not going to try." "What are we going to do?" Lisa asked. "We are going to bait him," Kyle said. "Krell is proud. He is angry. He will want to face me directly. So I am going to give him that chance." "That is suicide," Nicole said flatly. "No," Kyle said. "It is strategy. While Krell focuses on me, The rest of you get Zira to the emergency shuttles. Lisa has already prepared one. Once Zira is safe, I will disengage. And if you cannot, Marcus asked, then you make sure Zira gets away, Kyle said. That is the mission. Protect the girl. The team did not like it, but they agreed. Kyle spent the next hours preparing. He checked his weapons, tested his armor, and memorized the terrain. Every detail mattered. Zira found him in the armory. You are planning something dangerous, she said. It was not a question. I am doing my job, Kyle said. Your job is getting you killed, Zira said, her patterns flickering with distress. Kyle knelt down to her level. Zira, listen to me. I have survived a lot of battles. I know what I am doing. But what if you do not survive this one? Zira asked, tears in her large eyes. Kyle was quiet for a moment. Then he said, if something happens to me, you have to promise me something. Promise me you will keep living. Keep drawing. Keep learning. Do not let fear control your life. I do not want to promise that, Zira said. I want you to promise you will survive. I will try, Kyle said honestly. Zira hugged him tightly. Kyle held her gently, careful of his injuries. In that moment, he understood what his sister must have felt like to him. Someone small and precious that needed protection. You are my family now, Zira whispered. Humans are strange, but you are good. You are my family too, Kyle said. Krell arrived that evening with 30 mercenaries. They came through the main corridors, making no attempt at stealth. This was a show of force. Kyle stood in the central chamber, alone. The rest of his team was in position, ready to evacuate Zira the moment things went wrong. Krell was massive, even for his species. Covered in thick scales and battle scars, he carried weapons on every limb. His eyes were cold and calculating. You are Matthews, Krell said. The human they call the Reaper. And you are Krell, Kyle said. The mercenary who kills children for money. Krell's eyes narrowed. Where is the girl? Not here, Kyle lied. Then I have no use for you, Krell said, raising a weapon. Wait, Kyle said. I have a proposition. You and me. One-on-one. If I win, you and your people leave the station. If you win, I will tell you where the girl is. Krell laughed. You are injured. You can barely stand. Why would I agree to this? Because you are a warrior, Kyle said. And warriors respect honor. Unless you are afraid to face one human, that did it. Krell's pride would not let the challenge go unanswered. Very well, your death will be quick. They fought in the central chamber. Krell was powerful and experienced. Every blow he landed felt like being hit by a vehicle. But Kyle had fought bigger opponents before. He used speed and tactics, staying mobile, striking at weak points. The fight was brutal. Kyle felt his injured ribs protest with every movement. Blood ran from reopened wounds. But he kept fighting, kept moving. In his earpiece, he heard Nicole's voice. Zira is secure. We are at the shuttle. Go, Kyle said, dodging another of Krell's attacks. Get her out of here. What about you? Nicole asked. I will manage, Kyle said. He focused everything on Krell. The alien was strong. But Kyle had something Krell did not. He had spent months protecting Zira. Learning to care about something beyond himself. That gave him strength that went beyond physical ability. Kyle found an opening. He struck hard and fast, using a technique he had learned in hand-to-hand combat training. Krell staggered, surprised. You are better than I expected, Krell admitted. But not good enough. Krell launched a final assault, putting all his strength into it. Kyle met him head-on. They crashed together. Weapons forgotten. Fighting with pure determination. In the end, Kyle won by doing what humans did best. He refused to quit. Even when his body screamed at him to stop, even when every rational thought said to give up, he kept fighting. He outlasted Krell through sheer human endurance. Krell finally went down, breathing hard. Kyle stood over him. Weapon ready. Kill me, Krell said. Finish it. Kyle looked at the alien mercenary. Then he lowered his weapon. No. You lost. You leave the station. You tell every mercenary out there that Zira is under human protection. Anyone who comes after her will face the same thing. Krell stared at him in disbelief. You spare me? I am not a killer, Kyle said. I am a protector. There is a difference. Krell slowly stood. He looked at Kyle with new respect. I will honor the agreement. We will leave. And I will spread the word. The human guards the Valorian girl. Any who challenge that are fools. True to his word, Krell and his mercenaries left the station. News of the fight spread quickly. The story grew with each telling. A human soldier who fought a superior opponent while injured, won through determination, then showed mercy. 2 weeks later, the war crime trials concluded. Zira's father's testimony, along with others, put the criminals away. The death threats stopped. The danger was over. Ambassador Burke came to visit Kyle in the recovered section. The job offer still stands, she said. The Galactic Peace Council wants you to train their integrated defense force. Will you take it? Kyle looked at Zira, who was drawing at a nearby table. She looked up and smiled at him, her patterns glowing warmly. I have one condition, Kyle said. Name it, Burke said. Zira and Mira come with me, Kyle said. I am not leaving them behind. If I take this job, they are part of it. Burke smiled. Already arranged. The council thought you might say that. Zira jumped up and ran to Kyle. Really? We can stay together? Really, Kyle said. Does this mean you will teach me more about Earth? Zira asked excitedly. It means I will show you Earth, Kyle said. Would you like that? Zira's patterns blazed with joy. Yes. Can we see the dogs? And the oceans? And the trees you told me about? All of it, Kyle promised. 3 months later, Kyle stood on a hillside on Earth, watching the sunset. Zira stood beside him, staring in wonder at the sky turning orange and purple. Behind them, Mira sat on a bench, smiling peacefully. It is beautiful, Zira said softly. Yes, Kyle agreed. Is it true what they say now? Zira asked. That humans are the protectors of the galaxy? Kyle thought about that. During the war, humans had been feared as terrible warriors. Now, because of one assignment to protect one small girl, that reputation was changing. Humans were still warriors, but they were defenders now, guardians. I do not know about the whole galaxy, Kyle said. But I know I will always protect you. That is enough for me. Zira took his hand. You saved me. You changed everything. No, Kyle said gently. You changed me. You reminded me why we fought, not for territory or power, but for moments like this. For keeping innocents safe, so they can see beautiful things. They stood together watching the sunset. A human soldier and an alien child who had become family. Behind them, other species were learning what humans had always known. The strongest warriors were not those who sought war, but those who fought to protect peace. And somewhere in the galaxy, the word spread. If you threatened the innocent, if you came after children, humans would stand in your way, not because they loved violence, but because they loved what was worth protecting. Kyle looked down at Zira, at her wonder-filled face, and knew he had found his purpose after the war, not in fighting, but in protecting. Not in destruction, but in giving others the chance to see beautiful things. That was what it meant to be human. To stand guard so others could live in peace. The sunset faded to night, but Kyle did not move. He had spent so long in darkness during the war. Now, standing here with Zira, watching stars appear in the sky, he finally felt like he had found light again. Thank you, Zira said quietly. For what? Kyle asked. For keeping your promise, she said. For staying with me. Kyle smiled. Always. That is what family does. And under the stars of Earth, a human soldier and an alien child stood together. Proof that the galaxy could be more than what the war had made it. They were hope. They were the future, and they were home.